Tell me about the night when you dreamt of having your fingers smaller, you felt your ribcage contracting and your body trembling from space. You saw memories flashing like pages rapidly being ripped off from books. You saw the whole world crashing from your window pane. You were lying on your bed. You were young again. You were young again back then. When you created kingdoms with your pillows and blankets, and being alone didn't have to be that cold. You had an imagination that creates the sun with a palm to conquer all the stars your heart beat planets, and we all knew that you were made of the universe back then. You were expanding. You didn't see boundaries, and you were not afraid of the uncertain, with putting yourself in the middle of the system with the fear of blazing everything else. You were burning. You were beautiful. Beauty. You frequently used to say that word before, beauty. In the stretch marks of your mom, or the beer belly of your dad, in the wrinkled skin of dear granny, or how grandpa takes you out on morning walks. The way you mispronounce words and stutter when you speak. They told you that your tongue was too short, but you care less because you knew that back then you were only saying the truth. Maybe you haven't read yet so many magazines or watched so many commercials to make yourself feel any less. You didn't have to cut parts of yourself or to lose every detail of who you are just to make yourself fit in a 6-letter, 2-syllable word, beauty. Back then, when you used to play hide and seek that you never really hid, you kept your eyes wide open. You were laughing. You were happy. You had more time to listen more and speak less, to understand better and judge less, to ask well and conclude less. No cell phones and earphones yet to disconnect you from how it felt to be alive. No name tags and labels yet. You didn't care about what people choose to wear or the color of their skin or the people they choose to love. And girls can kiss girls and boys can hug boys, because back then you knew that emotion should not be kept caged in your flesh, and time was fleeting. You knew how it felt to love and be loved. You knew how to be human. It was not all about the flesh. It was not all about the names. You find playmates without actually remembering their names. Actually, remember the way they laughed. You remember how they held your hand. You remember where they live. Maybe that's why you didn't feel lost back then. You didn't have to ask strangers for directions because you know that they do not understand your land back then. When you used to play on playgrounds and guns and bombs were mere sound effects. No bullets to cut across your flesh. You sit on swings and ask people to push you up. It was not gravity that is pulling you down. You were flying and reaching your dreams above the clouds. You were not afraid of bruises or open wounds because they were reminders of how you tried, of how you were not afraid, of how you were once here. And your mother taught you to love more than hate less. Maybe that's why you sit on back rows together with the kids who were always picked last, because they have salt in their tears, and tears make everything else float without the force, without the expectations. You color coloring books the way you want it to be colored. You put blacks on apples and yellows on oranges because you see beauty in what they call different. You were picky with the things they shrug in your throat because you knew that everything stops in a black hole. And in a black hole, that's the perfect place to love. You learned to love every melody and sing in every song because you knew that they were stories, nothing, anything less. Music was not about the quality of the voice, but how everyone can live in harmony. And love is a warm hearty soup from mom. When you were sick and it's raining hard outside, but you didn't really care about the storm because you knew that what's important is how it felt inside, of how it felt like home to keep warm. So you learn to stare a little longer on every mirror and realize that who you are not is not an indication of who you can be. You didn't have to learn about the tightropes or the fire exits because you were creating bridges after bridges by extending one hand and reaching out to others. You shine bright that you create fires on forests. You created smokes and sound to remind yourself that you exist. Back then, when you still know that you were not a sad song played in broken strings like poetry dictated by rhymes and formalist formulas, you were unbound. You read books and catalogs for the nameless, reminding yourself that someday I can be someone. You started collecting sticks and stones from the shrines of what ifs because they won't break your bones, that the sun never stops from being beautiful, even if only a few realizes its worth, that the moon never ceases to stop. Even if it was cold and less than the sun, that the stars never give up, despite the distance of the journey and the darkest of the night, because you mean it. You burn so hard that every word turned into ashes, that every give up and you cannot become boulders, creating stepping stones to reach higher mountains for you to open your palm and reach for the light. You were happy. You didn't know how to write, so you don't put records of the nightmares instead. You continue pushing boundaries, owning galaxies, traversing universe, making every planet as your playground. Then you didn't make pricey spaceship because everyone is welcome in your world. You only count the things you can hold with your hands, so maybe that's why it was easier to let go. You put your stories in every constellations because you know that somehow you are worth it, despite the tidal waves of time. And even if the world doesn't give a shit about this now, you are young again. You create kingdoms and pillows from blankets, and being alone doesn't have to be cold. You have an imagination that creates the sun with a palm to conquer the stars. Your heart beats planets, and you are beautiful, and you are the universe.